This is the book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 9. Proclaim ye this amongst the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of the war draw near and let them come up. Matthew 24:6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Revelations 11:14 in the Holy Scriptures, and it reads, the second woe was past, and behold, the third woe coming quicker. Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem, Wakakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, preaching this word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, that be like unto the speckled bird, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. Salaki on it. So yeah, as you've seen, I bring out those scriptures and relates to this news article right here. And this is from the WashingtonExaminer.com. And this was published by Joe Jeek Crink, if I pronounce his name right. Foreign Affairs reporter. October 19th, 2022 at 3:04 p.m. And the highlight of this news article, and it read for in the news for today on October 19th, 2022 at 5:39 p.m. Central Time on this Wednesday afternoon. And the highlight of this news article, and it read for in the news, China's military to prepare for war as Xi Jinping menaces Taiwan. It says China's People's Liberation Army must prepare for war in order to ensure the communist regime various interests, a top military official emphasized as China's General Secretary. Xi Jinping charts the next 5 years of Beijing's policy. The military has maintained a high degree of vigilance, always preparing for war, and resultantly defending the country's sovereignty, security, and development interests. And Chinese Defense Minister General Wei Feng said Wednesday. Feng offered the extortion against the backdrop of the 20th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party. Every 50 years, affairs expected to grant Xi a third term in power. His coronation pertains a continuation of policies and behavior that had brought Beijing's claims of sovereignty over a range of territories and potentially conflict with the United States and its allies. A prospect Xi implied that requires of the People's Liberation Army to improve its training and deployment patterns with intensifying military training under combat conditions, laying out emphasis of joint training force on force training and high-tech training. Xi told the party Congress this week, we will be more adept at deploying out military forces on a regular basis in a diversified way, and our military will remain both steadfast and flexible in its carry out operations. This will enable us to shape our security posture, deter the manage crisis and conflicts, and win local wars. The U.S. and China strategics have adopted more adversarial outlooks over the last several years as Xi consolidated Beijing's control of Hong Kong signaling its intentions to bring Taiwan under the Chinese Communist Authority, which they have currently right now under the One China policy. As you have still continuing tensions between China and Taiwan, and the United States have tensions between, as China has tensions between the United States as well too, right along with Beijing and Washington over the South China Sea. Sovereignty over the vast majority of the South China Sea, a major swath of water that course between several countries with their own territory claims, including U.S. allies. There have been a change in the approach from Beijing towards Taiwan in recent years. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said this week, and instead of sticking with the status quo that was establishing a positive way to fundamentally decision that the status quo was no longer acceptable, that Beijing was determined to pursue a reunification on a much faster timeline. U.S. and China officials are racing to identify them and negate their vulnerabilities to the kind of power weighed by either side. Xi Jinping's emphasis of military readiness will soon to reflect a recognition that China's troops' lack of experience of U.S. forces in operation together in a hostile environment. As Xi paired his message about the military modernization with a series of warnings about his policy regarding Taiwan, the island's democracy that Beijing regards as the final pieces of the Chinese Communist ambition to run over the territory of the last Chinese empire. Because I remember, I believe like 1949 or around 47 or 1949, around that time, when China had was fighting the Communist Party, I believe, and then that's how you have Taiwan was separated from, China, and they have their own islands, their own sovereignty and stuff like that, but they still under the one China's policy, and the mainland China still look at Taiwan as part of them. As Taiwan continues to show that they want to be sovereignty, they have their own island, and they're preparing for any type of warnings or attacks potentially that comes their way with their military readiness, just like China as well too. So these tensions are definitely stirring up. That's why I bring out those scriptures of Matthew 24 through 6 to verse 7, Joel 3 and 9, Revelations 11 and 14. These things are continuing to build up. Oh, okay. Right. Oh, 68. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's decent. Oh, you had to turn it on this way. Oh, okay.
Yeah, God bless y'all might be gone. You know what we need to do.
Right.
It ain't no much y'all.
Yeah.
But then this on 6 levels better on 7.
Right.
That's low.
Yeah, 68 is low. Yeah, that's a good, decent amount of solid degrees or something. Yeah, weather did change a couple hours later.
We got it late one too. You put it on low, the bill
Right.
Put it up on the heating and shit like that.
Yeah.
Put it on the street. When it turn over, you got the shit.
Right.
Do you feel it?
I didn't
I
know.
know what to do when you gone. Daytime, you got to run it all day.
Right.
Get warm in the morning, come down.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk to OG. But yeah, like I was mentioning, so yeah, these tensions between Beijing and Washington, China and the United States over the Taiwan, over the South China Sea, and a lot of activity going on over there in the South China Sea for the past couple of months. Even though it had calmed down a little bit, but hey, they still, both sides and other sides are still in that readiness of preparing for war, as I brought out Joel 3 and 9, because you're gonna have still continuing tension between China and Taiwan, Beijing versus Washington, China versus the United States. So these things are gonna continue to escalate and increase. Like I mentioned before, it kind of calmed down a little bit over the past few months, you know, but it's gonna increase more and more and more. But continuing on with the reading, it says we have strengthened our strong initiative for China's complete unification and consolidated commitment to the One China principle with the international community, as Xi said. We have resolutely opposed separatist activities aiming at Taiwan's independence and foreign interference. Right, because I believe like 2 months ago, China and Taiwan, they separated from one another, doing importing and exporting electronics and other import goods as well too, along with the United States as well too. I believe China and the United States, they cut military ties from one another and other ties as well too. We have thus maintained initiative and the ability to steer cross-strait relations. It says America's policymakers, for their part, have scrambled to deny economic and technology advantages to Beijing. From then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo campaign smite Huawei's attempt to control Europe's advanced telecommunications infrastructures to President Joe Biden's recent moves to stop China from using our technology and against us and their own people, as a top advisor put it recently. Our competitors are using increasingly sophisticated means to legitimacy to acquire sensitive technology informations and knowing how we must adapt accordingly. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said last month, giving a fundamental nature of certain technology, I meant to say Slovakia, such as advanced logic and memory chips must maintain. Right, because I remember Joe Biden signed that deal, I said it was about roughly like a month ago. He signed that large technology chip, bill to compete with China as being a top technology of the world, because China is on top of that list as being a number one top technology infrastructure, when it comes to technology, and China is on top of that list, because that's where we get our manufacturing and technology goods and stuff like that, mostly made in China, and the United States trying to challenge that so they can have their own custom-made things in America rather than made in China, so they're in competition with one another. It says we must maintain as large as lead as possible. That technology constraints, raises, and prospect of the detanglement of the United States and Chinese economies, that some observers, including political leaders in the region, fears would rise the likelihood of war by lowering the perceived economic cost of an effect. Right, because you can have economic wars, political wars, agenda wars, straight to the point type wars. So you can have those many different types of wars, clashes between the two different nations, especially the two powerhouses of China and the United States as well too. Continuing on, it says decoupling is a worry. Singaporean Prime Minister Lee Hassan Hissin Long, if I pronounce his name right, reporters in Australia this week. But we do worry that a valid national security considerations may result in less economic cooperation, less interdependency, less trust, and possibly ultimately a less stable, world. It says Zine, while making his own protest against the decoping, emphasizing his determination to develop an initiative measure to deteriorate the U.S. military in a crisis. We will intensify troop training and enhancing combat preparedness across the board to see that our armed forces can fight and win. He said, we will establish a strong system of strengthening, deteriorating, and increasing the proportion of a new demand forces with. That's that Joel 3 and 10. Let the weak say I'm strong. That's what you're seeing from China, Throughout the years, they've been showing their military strength and upgrading on a lot of things, especially when it comes to their readiness, war type military training readiness, They've been getting stronger throughout the years now. That's why that Joel 3 and 10 is starting to take effect, It says new combat capabilities, speeding up the development of unmanned intelligence combat capabilities and performing coordinating development and applications on the network of information systems. So yeah, the Joel 3 and 10 definitely is coming to full effect. Let the weak say I'm strong. Joel 3 and 9. Wake up the mighty men of these nations, the Gentiles, which is the other nations. Prepare war, wake up the mighty men. That's what Yahweh Shem Shai is doing. Putting the spirit of these nations are getting that preparedness for war, In that Revelations 11 and 14, the second war was past, behold, the third war coming quickly. So we're seeing these things increasing by the days, as the time progresses, So with that, I hope this lesson was edifying with the scriptures, along with the article that I read. Lord willing, it's edifying, like I mentioned again, through the spirit, power, grace, and mercy of Yahweh Yahushua. And first and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushua Ba'ashem, Wakar Kadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, preaching this word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, scattered through the four corners of the globe, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And shalom to the Akim, that be like unto the speckled bird, preaching the word truthfully and sincerely. And until next time, I will say shalom and a ball.